This 6-month period of building a roster, mass mania in the National Football League has begun. Thanks for joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, as always, coming to you from the outstanding studios that they provide for us. And it's that time of year. It's that crazy time of the year. And the Cincinnati Bengals, just like every other team in the National Football League, trying to put together their roster for the upcoming season, catch everybody up on things that they've done. They re-signed Mike Gesicki, which was a big deal, no question about it. They re-signed B.J. Hill, a big deal as well. They re-signed Cody Ford. In my mind, all three of those signings, they signed three of the most versatile players that they've got on the football team. They all play multiple positions. Gesicki can line up anywhere, can line up at the end of the line of scrimmage as a tight end, can line up in the slot, can line up as a wide receiver, great route runner, gets in and out of cuts like a wideout. I mean, he's a very, very useful mismatch creating player. So he's got position versatility. Cody Ford can play all five spots in the offensive line. He can also be a big tight end for you in short yardage and goal line, position versatility. They've done a pretty good job in that regard. Tanner Hudson, they re-signed at the tight end position. In fact, all 6 tight ends that the Cincinnati Bengals had in last year's roster, they've all returned at this point in time. Ryan Rico, they brought back as a punter. Cal Adamitis, they brought back. Jackson Kirkland, they brought back as well in the offensive line. Cam Grandy, the tight end, was brought back. So 3 of the tight ends were free agents in some way, shape, or form. Franchise tag, T. Higgins, and that's no surprise. Sam Hubbard retired. Alex Kappa was released and signed right away by the Las Vegas Raiders. There's an opening at the guard position. Cody Ford is going to get a lot of consideration there as well. Sheldon Rankins was released. Still unrestricted free agents that are out there. Joe Bacci at linebacker. Von Bell, safety. I think there may be a retirement there. Trent Brown in the offensive line. How healthy is that knee injury? Akeem Davis-Gaither has gone elsewhere. That's the only player the Bengals have lost in free agency at this point in time. He signed with Arizona as an unrestricted free agent. Chris Evans, a running back, is still out there. Khalil Herbert at running back. They let go of Mike Hilton, and he's out there for anybody to pick up. They did re-sign Joseph Asai at the defensive end position as well. Cam Sample is out there as an unrestricted free agent. Deontay Smith is out there. Jay Tufele, Travion Williams, Marco Wilson at cornerback is out there. Cade York, backup kicker, is out there. So there are still a ton of free agents out there. The Cincinnati Bengals, though, they lost one, like I said, Akeem Davis-Gaither, but they signed 6 players for like $31 million. And when you think about it, that's more than Cleveland, or less than Cleveland gave to Myles Garrett. $40 million salary cap wise for Myles Garrett this year. This year, the signings that the Bengals have with B.J. Hill, 3 years for $33 million. That's $11 million a year. Joseph Asai signed a 1-year contract for $7 million. Mike Gesicki, 3 years for $25.5, which is $8.5 million a year, thereabouts. T.J. Slayton, they picked up from the Green Bay Packers. Jerry Montgomery was his defensive line coach for 3 seasons, knows all about him. He's on board for 2 years, $15 million, $7.5 per. Oren Burks, linebacker out of Philadelphia, basically Akeem Davis-Gaither, the snaps in the role that he filled, Oren Burks will probably fill, and they got him for 2 years, $5 million. So it's an interesting dynamic that's going on there. Samaje Perine, most recently with Kansas City. The Bengals $1.4 million to this year's cap, $3.8 million for the contract. So all told, those 6 players, $31 million. Myles Garrett over $40 million on that one deal alone. So the Bengals basically are trying to build their roster responsibly. They're trying to avoid dead money. They're trying to avoid the salary cap roller coaster. There's been a lot of players that have been signed at the edge position, defensive tackle position, as you would imagine. The Bengals are involved in keeping their own. That's the first thing I think that they look at in free agency. Keeping your own. What are we going to do? Evaluate the players that already know our system. We're already familiar with them. They're familiar with us. Keep your own. They've done what they can there, and they're trying to probably do more. Obviously, the big the big question is T. Higgins, $26.2 million franchise tag. Jamar Chase wants to be the highest paid receiver in the National Football League. Trey Hendrickson wants to be the highest paid defensive end in the National Football League. Joe Burrow is already one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. They're going to have to make some decisions there. That's when the rubber meets the road. All these contracts that we're talking about, this is an average per year. We don't know what the structure of the contracts are, and that's the biggest thing. How are these contracts structured? What the Bengals do in free agency, they try to give the players the money up front. They want to give the players the money in some sort of a bonus. There's multiple ways you can bonus players. They want the players to have the money up front. They don't want to be a victim of dead cap space. It's not necessarily proven to be the way to go. Right now, you have the Cleveland Browns. They had a quarterback, Deshaun Watson, $87 million, I think it was, dead money for this year. They redid the contract again to try to cut it. They cut it down to $36 million. I mean, that will absolutely kill you. How about the Atlanta Falcons overpaying their quarterback? I mean, that obviously has hurt the Atlanta Falcons. Jesse Bates' contract has kind of hurt them. They've been in cap jail for a while. 6 straight losing seasons for the Atlanta Falcons in maybe the weakest division in football. So, I mean, there's ways to handle it. You want to try to keep your own. They've lost one. They've picked up other players from other teams, and it's far from over. There's no question about that. How'd you like to be a San Francisco 49ers fan? They lost some good players. Banks, Greenlaw, to name a couple. They had $66 million in dead money, and they're losing players because they're in salary cap jail. Teams have definitely mismanaged the salary cap situation. You can decide to go crazy on a contract, and let's face it, Myles Garrett played the Cleveland Browns like a drum. I mean, general manager couldn't get it done. Go to the owner. The owner basically agrees, says to the general manager, give Myles Garrett what he wants for all practical purposes. $40 million, that's unbelievable. They're still in salary cap jail. You have to be a little bit wise with how you structure these contracts, and the Cincinnati Bengals have done a pretty good job of it, and other teams have not. This football team for the Bengals, honestly, it's an expensive roster. A lot of dollars up front. I mean, that's the way they believe in doing it, giving the players the money to spend as quickly as they possibly can. And the Cincinnati Bengals, therefore, can defer it. I mean, bonus money, if it's a 5-year contract, defer it over 5. These contracts that are being signed, though, a 3-year contract's a long deal. I mean, they're 1-year, 2-year, 3-year deals. It's not, teams aren't extending out there as long as many years as they've done in the past. So they do have an expensive roster in terms of dollars up front. They have very, very low dead money. I mean, they had $6 million in dead money last year. There are teams in the National Football League with $66 million in dead money. The Bengals spent $287 million in cash last year, and there were teams that spent $100 million less than that in cash last year because of salary cap issues. So you have to understand how to take care of your salary cap, because the party only lasts so long. And then the hangover can last a long time. I mean, you can celebrate the signing of Myles Garrett, one of the greatest players in the National Football League for sure. But then when you look at it, man, is there going to be a hangover? Not just Myles Garrett, the way Deshaun Watson, everything that they've done up there in Cleveland. There's been a lot of cap irresponsibility. And Atlanta, and there are other teams. I mean, it's hard to you can party for a while, but the hangover can last a while, and it can get worse instead of better. The hangover can get worse, and it's been that way for some teams. Basically what you're trying to do is pay up front, low dead money. Players help you win football games. They want to have a healthy cap. You don't have to cut players for the wrong reasons. There are a lot of players, unrestricted free agents out there now that are victims of these big long-term contracts where there's a lot of money being paid on the back end of that contract, and with no intention, the team had no intention of paying it out. So now they're out there, but you'd still have to account for it on your salary cap, and that's not, in my mind, the way to handle business on a day-to-day business. Try to keep investing in your football team. Give them every chance to win that you possibly can. That's an oversimplification. But that's kind of what it's all about. With respect to T. Higgins, love to get a long-term contract done with T. And Jamar Chase. Obviously, got one with Joe Burrow that's still in place. Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals have allowed him to go find out what his market is. He said to his agent and himself, go out there and see what you can get done for a trade. If somebody's willing to pay that kind of money, now there's compensation involved, draft pick. I'm sure they want a high 2 or a number 1. And if the compensation isn't right, they can nix the trade. So there's a lot of things. There are a lot of variables there for Trey Hendrickson to work through. T. Higgins. Bengals last year are 8-4 with T. Higgins. They were 1-4 without him. In a 5-year time frame, 267 of his 334 catches, almost 80% of his receptions resulted in a first down or a touchdown. That's productivity you'd like to have. There is no question that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, that's a formidable duo. Mike Gesicki, we just had on, he'll be in a podcast you guys will be seeing here very shortly. He talked about what a pleasure it is, what an honor it is to be playing tight end and exploring the middle of the football field when those two guys are outside receivers. I mean, that's a very, very potent combination. Of course, Joe Burrow wants to keep that intact as long as he possibly can. The Bengals believe that players want the money up front, and they do. Why wouldn't they? That way they can control the back end risk. And that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of their philosophy. There are many ways to handle bonuses. There's roster bonuses, there's signing bonuses, there's option bonuses. There's all kinds of tools to manage the salary cap from a bonus standpoint that allows deferral and not building up too much dead money in terms of big salaries that you have no intention of paying. So there's a way to get it done. There are private equity firms that help some teams in the East and West Coast in the National Football League, but the Midwest, I don't think many teams are using these private equity firms to help handle their salary caps. So it's going to be interesting. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's no question about it. The Bengals came out of the gate with quite a few transactions in day one. Some of them can't be announced till a little bit later on. You can announce contracts with your retention of your current players, but new players added to your roster, that's going to be announced a little bit down the road in the middle of the week here. So it'll be interesting to see when all these contracts get announced. Have all of them been reported? I'm sure most of them have, with social media and everything else. As soon as teams and players come to some kind of an agreement, it's going to be big news. But again, the B.J. Hill signs a big deal, $11 million a year to stay in Cincinnati. Joseph Asai, 1-year deal, $7 million. Mike Gesicki, 3-year deal, $25.5. So they gave out 2 3-year deals. Slayton, who they picked up from Green Bay Packers, Jerry Montgomery coached him there, 2 years, $15 million. Oren Burks, 2 years, $5 million. Samaje Perine comes back to Cincinnati for $1.4 million this year, $3.8 total contract. It's not over. It's not over. Rome wasn't built in a day. There's a lot of work to be done. But as you look at it, you look at some of the needs. Edge rush, it's already picked over pretty heavily. Defensive tackle, it's already picked over a little bit. But here's 2 players that the Bengals retained at the tight end position. Mike Gesicki was either number 1, number 2, or number 3 on just about every free agent list. B.J. Hill was top 3 at defensive tackle in a lot of free agent lists. So the Bengals retained their own in terms of highly regarded free agents at those 2 respective positions. So they did retain a defensive tackle who can play the run very, very well at nose tackle, and there's the 3 technique, can kick out to end in a pinch, and he's a good pass rusher on the interior as well in B.J. Hill. And Mike Gesicki's numbers speak for themselves. This guy is a weapon for the Cincinnati Bengals offensively. Miles to go before the Bengals rest, just like the rest of the National Football League. But the Cincinnati Bengals, I think when you look at it, what their mindset is, thoughtful, deliberate operation, no cash challenges, avoid that up and down roller coaster. They've been, their goal is to be in the top 10 in cash spent every year, and they've been doing that. So there's a cash-based cap and there's an accrual-based cap, and they're a little bit different. But they do spend the cash at a high level to put together a strong team, as strong a team as they feel they can. So we'll see. We'll see when it's all said and done. I'm a former offensive lineman, for the most part, interior offensive lineman. I played in the NFL for 10 seasons, 2 in the USFL. I mean, I think pretty good at the tackle position if all hands can come back on deck healthy. It's going to be a big, big key. Got some big, long, strong linemen at the offensive tackle position potentially. Could always use more. Could always have more competition. But, you lost an offensive lineman in Kappa, and they decided to let him go. It wasn't that somebody outbid them for him or anything like that. They let him go, and then the Raiders right away jumped on him and signed him. So there's a need inside at the tackle position, at the guard position, and some names that are still out there. Trey Smith re-upped with Kansas City. Will Freeze signed with the Minnesota Vikings. James Daniels signed with the Miami Dolphins. Zach Martin retired. Pat McCarry signed with Jacksonville. Aaron Banks signed with Jacksonville. The Jaguars are making some noise now. Jaguars are spending some bucks. Guys that are out there, still available. Tevin Jenkins, unrestricted free agent, last played with the Chicago Bears. Kevin Zeitler, got years on him, long in the tooth, played well for the Bengals. He still plays pretty darn well, most recently with the Detroit Lions. Mekhi Becton, Philadelphia Eagles, big old man inside. Maybe think about that a little bit. Brandon Scherf with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they're signing people left and right in Jacksonville, but they haven't re-signed him. So he's been a good player for quite a few years. Will Hernandez, another option. There are options out there at the guard position, and I'm sure many more that haven't been talked about. Telling you, football teams, if you're strong up the middle, the interior of the offensive line, the interior of the defensive line, inside linebackers, safeties, quarterback, fullback. If you do have a fullback and if you're strong up the middle, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So the Bengals definitely have to do some refortification at the inside. Now, Cody Ford, like we talked about, will compete for that right guard spot that's been vacated. We'll see. We'll see what the Bengals do. There's still so much time. They came out of the gate, though, and they signed a lot more than they lost. Let's face it. People want to see the big, sexy deal signed, multi-millions. And I know there's a couple of wide receivers that'd like to see that done by the Cincinnati Bengals, and so would I. So would everybody. I'd love to see them all make $30, $40, $50 million a year. But can you do it? Can it be structured? Can it fit into the salary cap? Can you structure it accordingly where everybody wins? The other thing to consider, Mike Gesicki basically took a Bengals discount to stay in Cincinnati. He said that himself. He had an organizational discount. Why? Because he wanted to be with Joe Burrow. He wants to be with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase as well. Like we said, that trio has put up crazy numbers. He understands. This guy's been in the league for a while. When he started off with Miami and Tua, good numbers. Second-round pick out of Penn State. Miami Dolphins looking good. Goes to New England, doesn't have a quarterback. Numbers suffer. Comes to Cincinnati. Prove it deal, 1-year deal. Joe Burrow. He has a quarterback. He proves to the coaching staff that he's got position versatility. He's got a skill set. Big new contract. Generational wealth for his family. It's the kind of thing you like to see. Why did he stay in Cincinnati? Biggest thing is Joe Burrow. Why would Jamar Chase and T. Higgins like to stay in Cincinnati? Biggest thing is Joe Burrow. A.J. Green has texted Bengal players at the receiver position. Be careful what you wish for. When he left Andy Dalton for the money and went out there and didn't have a quarterback to get him the football, it's a different dynamic. And I'm certainly not going to talk about other people, what they should do with their money and how much money they should make. Everybody should make as much as they possibly can. I am not going to get involved in anybody's money, anybody's earning power. It's the United States of America. It's a free economic system. But another thing to think about, and this is, well down the list, when you're all done playing, you have reunions. Guys get together. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, other guys. Man, remember in 2000, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, we were killing it. We were dominating the National Football League. Stay together, put up big numbers. That's a legacy. That's something that's with you the rest of your life. Now, does that pay your mortgage, buy groceries? No. And I'm not saying that should override what the economics are. But if the economics are fair, like Mike Gesicki felt, the Bengals' economics were fair, that was a factor. That was in his head a little bit. That, man, if I stay with Joe Burrow, I can put up some significant numbers. Just something to think about. Love to see them all run it back again. Could take some time. Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off-season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please, do me a favor. Subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.